Hi friends, I'm Jess and this video is one that so many of you have asked for, which is some details around my final estrangement with my parents. I've got some letters here from them, so I really want to give their perspective. So pull up a chair, get comfy, and let's get into it. Hi folks, thanks for being here. So I'm Jess, I am a psychotherapist, I do relationship coaching, and I am estranged from my very challenging family. Well, what I think is very challenging, but this video I'm going to talk you through what my perspective of things and their perspective of things as best that I can. And so really to highlight the fundamental differences that we have in views around certain events that have happened, and how that has led to what I'm going to call a final estrangement. When we get to the end, you'll see it's completely final. It's not a total no contact, so I'll talk through that. And also I have a question for you all in terms of who estranged from who. I always kind of thought that I cut them off, but really when I look back at some of the things, I just think, actually, did they estrange from me? Oh my gosh, it's complicated. So let's dive into it. So I want to try and keep this video not too long, and I also want to honor that it's a very complex story. So I'm just going to try and do a short summary. So I do have to talk a little bit about my sister. I've been seeing a counselor and saying, what can I do? How can I have a better relationship with my family? And she's like, yeah, Jess, I think you're doing what you can. And the things that I'm seeing are really challenging. And I see you as codependent. And so you need to think about having some better boundaries with them. So that's how this all started, is I needed to put in some boundaries with my family and specifically with my sister. Basically, my sister and I were looking after some money for a very, very vulnerable family member. I had become concerned about the fact that I didn't have a lot of visibility as to what was happening with the money. My sister was spending a lot and saying that she was spending it on my family member, but it didn't add up. I know that my family member didn't like some of those things or wasn't able to. My sister would buy a lot of clothes for this person, and in these stores that I was like, no, my family, this person actually can't, I don't think they can fit in to clothes from that store, you know? It was all getting messy and I was getting very stressed out, and I made some mistakes as well. And this is definitely not a I did nothing wrong video. There are definitely things that I did wrong. And also I am going to say that I don't think that the charges that were laid against me in the end are fair. I'm concerned about the money that my sister is spending, and so I contacted the lawyer that my sister had hired to help us to make sure we were managing this situation correctly. And the lawyer said, yes, actually, Jess, I don't work for you, I just work for her, I just work for your sister. That was really difficult. It was really difficult for me to hear, and my world basically kind of came crashing down at that point. I was like, I've been conned. I had my own lawyer at that point, which my parents were furious for me for doing. I'll come back to that in a second. But my sister refused for anybody to have a look into the history. I actually ended up going to the legal regulators to find out, to see if there's anything I could do. But basically they said, no, your sister knew everything. You really weren't a party to a lot of the information. And so what had happened was, I think my sister had figured out there's a lot of money, nobody's really looking at it, and there's a way that we can help ourselves to it. My sister was able to convince her lawyer. I agreed to break the law, and she told me that everything that that he had advised us was legal. So basically there's just this sleight of hand that she's this middle person, and so she was able to get us into this space where we could basically do a bit of swindling or embezzlement or fraud, depending on what level of wording you wish to use. But the most important part of this is that my sister has always maintained her innocence to my parents. When I first got wind of that something was really wrong, because I just knew, I just had that dread, and I just thought, oh my God, this is going to get messy. So I went to them and said, look, I've got some concerns about this. They were like, okay, well, what do you want us to do? And I said, nothing. I just want you to keep neutral, but please just know that I need to do what I need to do. I'm getting legal advice. I just want you to know that that's what I'm doing. And they said, we love you both. But we're going to keep out of this. Wonderful. And then the next day or a couple of days later, I get the first email, the first phone call saying, actually, we talked to your sister and you've got it wrong. You don't understand. Yeah, you don't need to do this. And the lawyers you've been speaking to, they're in Canada. They don't know what they're talking about. And I'm like, at this point, I'm really stressed out and I'm really annoyed. And I'm like, don't insult my intelligence and don't insult any Canadian lawyer's intelligence. There was no way any lawyer is going to sit down and give me advice on a legal situation that is in another jurisdiction. I had not, and I would not talk to a Canadian lawyer about a problem with UK law. Then it got into, my dad decided he wanted to mediate. I made a huge mistake here by agreeing to that. I felt quite pressured, and I really wished that I had not just said, no, I'm sorry, Dad, but you're not able to mediate. I should say as well, nobody in my family has any legal training at all. No. But my dad wanted to mediate, and so I went down that road very briefly, and I was having a lot of difficulty with it. I was so stressed out. I ended up being diagnosed with PTSD and depression after all this, so I was really, really struggling. I wasn't able to think very well. I wasn't able to form very coherent arguments. I wasn't sleeping. I was waking up screaming at times because I was so stressed out about it. But anyway, my dad was trying to mediate and basically came back with, yeah, your sister's done nothing wrong. We can't see there's a problem here. And part of his mediation was that why didn't we just split the money? I should take half of it. My sister should take half of it. I don't know about you guys, but that for me, that's bribery. And it was completely illegal. I just feel like they were trying to buy me off, give me money to shut up. And if I had done that, thank God I hadn't, then I would have been in serious, serious trouble. The driving license came into it. I need to tell you another mistake that I made so I emigrated. When I emigrated, it was a little bit at a time. So I'd had my driving license and some bank details, bank paperwork rerouted to my parents' address. They were fine about it. That'd been going on for 10, 15 years. And then I needed to get a new driving license. I'd had it sent to my parents' address, which I shouldn't have had. You're not allowed them when you're not resident in the UK. So I did that, yes. My parents said that I was deceptive and I had broken the law at the end of it, but actually, I think it was just a fine. I don't know that you go to jail for having, for keeping on your driving license for longer than you should. There was really no danger to them. But what happened was that they had this driving license, and I said, please, can you send it to me? Because I was starting to get very stressed out that they had my bank details, my driving license, because what else can they do? How else can they misrepresent me? And I'd ask my dad for this driving license, and he would say things like, I can't think of why you would want it. And I knew as well, and for me, this is a really big thing about my parents and my sister. I realized that I need to be very careful about what I say to them in terms of what's important to me. Because if I say this is really important that you do this, then that gives them, they know, that gives them ammunition against me. So if I said it's really important that you send me my driving license because I'm concerned, then they would have known that it was hurting me, and then they would have doubled down. So I asked them for it, but I didn't want to let them know how really scared I was about them having it. I did actually go to the police about it. I didn't follow through in the end. And I did contact the driving license people saying, please, can you cancel it? Is there anything you do? Can you get it back? But part of my dad's mediation was that he decided to use it as blackmail, and said, and basically until you call off your lawyers and call off this whole pursuing your sister unnecessarily, then we're going to keep your driver's license. So there was blackmail, there was bribery, there was trying to tell me that I was wrong. There was also a lot of, how could you do this to us? Your mother is very upset. You don't care about people. Anyway, that happened. I got very, very stressed out. Eventually I said to my parents, look, you need to back off because I'm not functioning well. I don't want our relationship to become unnecessarily tainted by what's happening with my sister, but I can't tell what's her and what's you right now. I can't do this. When I look back on it, I think that was way more generous than they deserved, because they were deliberately putting themselves in there. But anyway, I let them know. And I said, I need some space. And their response was, no. They emailed, they called, they were like, we're your parents, you will not stop speaking to us. So I panicked, and I blocked them. I didn't tell them why. I was too stressed out I didn't want to get into any more discussions, because I thought if I do tell them that I'm going to block them, then I'm just going to end up in this wheel of not being able to extract myself, and that's what I needed to do. The money that my sister and I were managing went to independent trustees. It took a long, long time because my sister was representing herself against me. Her lawyers disappeared right off, and so my sister I think just tried to drag it out and hoping that I would run out of money. It was awful. It was just the worst experience, but I managed to hang in there and get her to resign, as well as myself. Then the independent trustees took over, and basically what they did is they took one look at it and said, you know what, let's just draw a line under this. Jess, your sister, you know what, you did it wrong. Your names were on this. It was illegal, whether you understood it or not. You did the wrong thing, pay the money back, and we're just gonna keep going. And I'm a bit disappointed that they didn't look into the details as to why we got ourselves into this mess in the first place, but I can understand that that wasn't necessarily their job. The problem is, again, though, that my sister had told these new trustees that, oh, she didn't really understand. Oh, bless her heart, she didn't understand. Sorry, that was me being sarcastic. Parents had then taken this review from the new trustees, and then they wrote me this letter. And it says, you will by now, so these are my dad's words here, Chess, you will by now have seen the results of the audit of the trust. It shows that your sister acted responsibly and is not guilty of the embezzlement charge that you leveled against her. It shows that you were both at fault of what happened, so your legal action has proved to be a very expensive exercise for no real gain. Well, I'm sorry, Dad, but you're completely wrong on that. And I think that's the thing. They believe, they have managed to convince themselves that this is true. So they've basically, as a confirmation bias, they've looked at some parts of the letter from the new trustees and said, yes, this proves that my sister was right and that I was wrong. So in my parents' eyes, this is true. Your actions have irreparably damaged my relationship with my sister and her kids, her husband and her kids, and it should never have got to that stage. So really they're saying they blame me entirely for what happened. So the letter says here, we have tried to stay neutral in your dispute, but we have our own views of the situation and needed to wait for independent assessment before taking sides. And I should also say that my mum was originally supposed to be a trustee. She decided she didn't want to do it. My dad decided he didn't want to do it. The family all abdicated responsibility and put it on the shoulders of myself and my sister, and I was in my late 20s with no legal training. And I was so freaking controlled by my family. It's not an excuse, but it's a reason why I got into this mess, and that's why it got to this state. But apparently, according to my parents, if our actions look like failing to support you, then this is unfortunate, but it had to be the case. And I think, again, this is really important. My parents are saying, look, actually, we see that we are taking responsibility for our actions, for our views on this. We support your sister and we don't support you. Okay, so okay, parents, okay. This is brilliant as well. Over the course of your lifetime, we have supported you in your ventures, even though some have seemed a little strange to us. So again, for me, that's a really true statement. They think that I'm different. I'm just, some of the things that I choose, just, what those things are, I've got no idea. I'll be honest, like, all they care about is academics. I had my doctorate when I was 24 to try and, I thought that maybe they would be proud of me at that point. I've been financially independent since I was 20. I got a scholarship to go to grad school. I then left a well-paying job because I was really unhappy, and I met a guy and I got married and I live with him now. That's my strange life. But again, I'm just different to these guys. I'm just different. But it does say here, actually, I don't agree. We understand that you've embarked on a different lifestyle, but we are happy to accept that. Actually, I don't think you are. Actually, Mum and Dad, that's where I don't think you do accept my differences. You might think you've been unfairly treated over my driving license. No, I think you just broke any kind of trust, and I just think it was ugly. Yeah, hey, I was to blame too, but unfairly treated? Yeah, you tried to blackmail me with it. No. Then it says, you need to decide if you wish to remain a part of your family, which we hope you will. We need to know definitely by Christmas at the latest. If you do want to re-establish relations, we will require an understanding that you will Skype on a reasonably regular basis with us. So I kind of call this the ultimatum letter, that I would fall in line with their views around what happened with my sister and the money, and that also I would agree that I must be in regular contact and what that would look like. My thoughts after reading that letter, I'm going to tell you right now, were I was hurt and angry about some of the facts, but all I could think of was for the ultimatum was, thank God, there's an out. I just have to get to the end of the year and I'll be free. They can go their way, I can go my way. They can think of me as this awful person, but at least I can live in peace. That was September 2021. Since then, my mum writes to me Christmas and birthdays saying, "We don't understand why you won't talk to us, Jess. We're so upset. Why won't you get in touch? If we've done something wrong, we have to talk about it." You've told me, Mum and Dad, you've told me you want me out of the family. If you really think that I would unnecessarily, for no reason, sue my sister, just wake up one day from another country and go, you know what, I'm just going to make her life hell, and I'm going to deliberately try and pull apart the family. I'm going to jeopardize my relationship with my nieces and with her lovely husband. If you really think that I did those things, if you really think that I reveled in this litigation, that I really wanted to try and destroy the family, and I've got that side of me, then why do you want to have a relationship with me? If you think all these awful things, why don't you just leave me alone? I've said that I don't want to do this. Why do you then keep contacting me? Why can't you just let us disagree? And yeah, I can hear some of you watching this saying, Chess, well, you let them write to you, you let them. And yeah, you're right. And yeah, I think that's my stuff, that's my thing, and something that I'm actually a little cliffhanger. I have addressed that slightly. I did actually write to my mom quite recently, and I can hear you going, what? Why? I'll tell you all about it and what the response was. But that's another video. Friends, thank you for watching. And yes, there are two sides to every story. And I think it's very clear in this situation that my parents truly believe that I am not their favorite daughter, and that they really have a lot of problems with how they perceive me to be. And my perspective is that it's a classic kind of scapegoating in a really difficult family, and that they need to blame me for they need me to be the bad guy, because if they were to look and to think about, well, maybe my sister has done something wrong here, their whole world falls apart. They're the grandparents to my sister's kids. They have this lovely facade about them being these great, having this happy family. I'm actually quite conveniently out of the way. And so it does them no favors at all to think about the family any differently. If they weren't to demonize me and to put me in that role, then it would really fundamentally shake up their view of the family. And I really think that that's the truth of it, that it's too damaging, too scary, it's just too far for them to think that I might have any element, even a kind of a grain of truth in what I'm saying. I don't think they can go there. So friends, thanks for being here. Let me know what you think, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.